Okay, good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the first meeting, of February for the Lee County Board of Commissioners. Pleased to have everybody here this evening. At this time, if you'd stand and we'll have a moment of silence, and if you'll join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, are there any additional items for the agenda? Or a motion?
Madam Chair, make a motion that we approve tonight's agenda.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, and approval of consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay, any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on into let's see here. All right, public comments. Ms. Gabby Murillo. Good evening. How are you?
Good. Gabby Morello. I reside at 546 Lanier Farm Road. I was not planning on making public comments tonight, but I attended our public policy meeting that was on ACEs, and I just feel compelled to share some things with you guys. I'm here to talk about S3. Homelessness is an economic development issue. It's not a charity issue. And our nonprofits and churches cannot carry the weight of our community on their shoulders alone. Right now we have over 300 kids in the school system who are McKinney-Vento homeless, so they're couch surfing, they're staying with friends and family. Many of them don't have beds, definitely not their own rooms. The Bread of Life Ministries was open 20 nights in January. We're really fortunate that they could afford to be open that many nights, and they served about 40 people. We held the pit count last week, and we don't have the numbers in yet of how many people were found, but I know that one family was found in the Walmart parking lot sleeping in their car. They did have children, so they were taken over to First Baptist to sleep for the night. Our shelters stay full. You can talk to Family Promise, OMI. They're constantly waiting lists for those shelters, and we don't have any shelter that a whole family can stay at. With Family Promise, they're still moved from church to church every week. Every other municipality that has succeeded in a system for homelessness has had local government involved. And I feel we've had a major lack of county government involved, and I can understand your hesitation, but I want to challenge you guys to actually regularly attend S3. Our Community Engagement Committee meets tomorrow at 8:30, and that is a recurring meeting. You will hear information on the pit count and what was found. I know we packed over 150 bags to give out that night, and that is at First Baptist Church. I don't want to live in a gentrified community where people living in poverty are pushed out. And I'm a real estate agent. I'm 100% for economic development, but I'm for economic development that includes everybody and not just the middle class. Thank you.
Thanks, Gabby. Appreciate it. Okay. At this time, we'll go into old business, and that's page 51 on your agenda, the planning board recommendation for a zoning map amendment. And Ms. McNeil, good evening.
Good evening. Once again, good evening, Chairman Dalrymple, Commissioners, and staff. This evening, I'm presenting the recommendation from the Planning Board regarding a rezoning request for which the public hearing was held on January 21st. All information relevant to the case should have been presented during the public hearing. Information regarding this rezoning request is on pages 51 through 59 of your agenda. Regarding the petition by SACR Development LLC to rezone 2 vacant tracts of land totaling a little over 26 acres with frontage on St. Andrews Church Road between 2013 and 2207 St. Andrews Church Road from residential agricultural RA to residential single-family R20, after much discussion and deliberation, the Planning Board recommended by a unanimous vote that the Commissioners approve the request since the request appears to be in keeping with the land uses described in the long-range plan by allowing detached single-family dwellings in a residential area on the outskirts of a core urbanized area, and the request would facilitate large-scale development of single-family residential by having a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet with proposed utility infrastructure of public water and on-site wastewater disposal, and the site is currently accessed via a 2-lane public highway. During the Planning Board meeting, the following topics were discussed, with the applicant and area residents' attendance contributing to the dialogue. The loss of farmland to development having the potential to become a problematic with regard to not just this specific site, but to Lee County in general. The proposed lot size of 20,000 square feet, or approximately half an acre, being more in common with the urban areas of the city as opposed to the rural areas of the county. And once again, these are topics of discussion at the Planning Board meeting. The site having access to existing public water along St. Andrews Church Road, which would be available to serve future development. The site not having access to public sanitary sewer. Therefore, future development must be served by individual private septic systems. The regulation of sedimentation and erosion control by the state as opposed to local government, and the regulation of roadway improvements by the North Carolina Department of Transportation. During the meeting, the following concerns were expressed by adjoining property owners and area residents. They were concerned once again about the loss of farmland, the small lots of a size typically found in the city being occupied by families with children that have no neighborhood park within their subdivision or city park close by to use for recreation, which may be problematic for neighbors with fields, woods, and ponds on their private property that the children may use for recreation or mischief. They were also concerned about neighbors with wide open spaces and areas of land having to bear the burden of fencing or other means of keeping the residents of the subdivision off their land. They were concerned about the creation of so many lots in a linear manner adjoining the neighborhood's property, thereby creating many backyards with all the typical backyard stuff up against the 1 or 2 adjoining neighbors' front yards and side yards. Concern was expressed regarding no landscape buffer or fencing being required as part of a future subdivision design, no permanent stormwater ponds being required as part of a future subdivision design, sedimentation and erosion control problems such as ditches filling up with sand and silt becoming problematic in the area. There was also concern that the long-range plan designation of this area as suburban neighborhood, with the Westlake Valley neighborhood in Sanford being the local example, is not appropriate for this area of Lee County. Concern was also expressed that the location of the proposed new road in a curve on St. Andrews Church Road was noted as being dangerous. Once again, those were concerns that were shared at the Planning Board meeting on January 21st. Please be mindful that 2 votes are required by the Commissioners this evening for a rezoning request. There are motions on pages 53 of your agenda, and it is possible to actually vote that it does agree with the land use plan and then not vote to approve it, or to vote that it doesn't agree with the land use plan and vote to approve it. It's simply you need to acknowledge the long-range plan in your vote. Okay. Are there any questions?
Any questions? I have one.
I was
Yes, ma'am.
just going to-
Oh, no, go ahead. You go first.
And this is to you or anybody, Amy, either one, but has DOT been, well, both of y'all are Amy.
That was
Has
my question.
DOT been contacted yet, or is that at a later point?
DOT has reviewed a conceptual preliminary plat, but they have not reviewed a full-blown preliminary plat. When and if this property is rezoned and the developer decides to pursue development of a subdivision at this location, he presents a preliminary plat to the Technical Review Committee, the TRC, and their DOT actually looks at it and they determine Things such as, is the road in a suitable location? Definitely a driveway permit would be required because it's connecting to a public road. Based on the information provided thus far, NCDOT didn't think a turn lane would be required. But once again, they've not made their official determination because they haven't reviewed the actual preliminary plat. That will come later on. Also, just so you know, before these lots will be able to be legally created on the subdivision plat, there is a certificate on that plat that NCDOT actually signs to acknowledge that they have plans that would comply with the NCDOT regulations. So we don't leave them out of it, but it's very early in the game for them to provide input.
Madam Chair, do we know if the soil's been tested for septic systems?
Yes, sir. We have a very preliminary soil report that I'll be glad to share with you. I requested that information from the engineer after our initial discussion on January the 21st. So it has some very general soil information, and I will be glad to share that with you as an exhibit if you like. Is that okay?
No, it's not necessary. Just curious if the concentration of the lots is going to change if the soil's not
I can tell
allowing.
you, based on the information that's been provided to me, the lots align up with the proposed soil report, but once again, that's something I would provide with you, to you, as part of the agenda for the preliminary plat, so you could see that for yourself, whether or not they align.
Do you know if DOT does a traffic study anytime we're gonna have developments?
They do not. They look at the information provided by the developer and determine whether or not it warrants a traffic impact analysis to be provided by the developer. If that's the case, the developer has to hire a traffic engineer to provide that information to DOT. DOT will actually go out and visit the site, look at things such as the curve, hills, topography, things like that, but they do not actually do a traffic study. And I will tell you, from what I've seen, the 29 lots proposed conceptually would not warrant a traffic impact analysis based on my experience.
It's interesting that they would ask the developer, not the people that live on the actual road.
Correct. They would ask the developer to bear the burden of hiring a traffic engineer
Wow.
to do the traffic impact analysis.
Any other questions? Okay, is there, and remember, as Ms. McNeil said, there's two votes for this action. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the statement on long-range plan consistency as it relates to this rezoning request. It appears to comply with the plan San Lee suburban neighborhood designation in that it allows single-family homes in a residential area on the outskirts of a core urbanized area, and the request would facilitate large-scale development of single-family density by having a minimum size of 20,000 square feet with public water and streets access via a two-lane public highway. Therefore, I make motion that it is consistent with the adopted long-range plan.
Okay, any questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then a motion to approve or deny the request.
Some printed out. I just said so moved.
Well, yeah, it's right here.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that the proposed zoning map amendment is not reasonable and not in the public interest.
No, here. Sorry, it's your
That's not part of the record. What I just- Okay. I make a motion that the proposed zoning map amendment is reasonable and in the public interest because it is consistent with the adopted land use plan. There is existing R20 zoning adjoining the site, and the site has access to a public roadway, public water. Therefore, I move to approve the request to rezone 26-plus acres off St. Andrews Church Road, identified as Lee County Tax Parcel 9650-59-9227-00 and 9650-58-5534-00 as depicted on Lee County Tax Map 9650.02.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. just as a point, I know we've got people in the audience on this issue, and I know I can speak for the board to appreciate everybody that came out for the public hearing and for this. As our manager said at the last meeting, you know, we're growing, and we have a land use plan that I know Mr. Downey and Ms. McNeil, we went through a lot over the last 2 years with meetings and planning and community meetings, and getting a lot of community input on how our new land use plan would work. And as we grow, I think we'll have more issues like this. As a farm family, I see both sides completely with the growth, and then trying to maintain our rural lifestyle that a lot of us love and enjoy. So we appreciate your input on all sides. Our next item on the agenda is under new business, a tax lien advertisement for delinquent 2019 real property taxes. Mr. Brown? Okay, good evening.
Hello, Chairman Dalrymple, other county commissioners and staff. We come before you tonight with the tax lien advertisement for delinquent 2019 real property taxes. Per General Statute 15369A, we're requires the tax collector to report to the governing body unpaid real property taxes for the current fiscal year. And then the governing board must order the tax collector to advertise those tax liens. We've delivered that report to the clerk to the board on January 24th, and we look to advertise in the newspaper Sanford Herald no earlier than March 4th.
Any questions or discussion for Mr. Brown? All right, is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to order the tax collector to advertise the tax lien for the 2019 delinquent real property taxes.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. And I guess you're up next as well.
I'm up to bat again. Next item is amendment to the Tyler Technologies Incorporated Agreement. We would ask that you approve the amendment to the agreement that's before you in reference to the field mobile software that we have.
Okay, any questions or discussion?
Move to approve.
Okay, all right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you very much. All right. And on our last item of business is proclamation for Black History Month. It's hard to believe it's already February. But the proclamation before you for consideration is, whereas Black History Month is a time to celebrate the contributions of African Americans who have helped to shape the history of our local community, state, and nation, and whereas, according to Data USA, Lee County, North Carolina, is home to approximately 11,296 African American residents, which is approximately 19% of Lee County's total population, and whereas Black History Month grew out of the establishment in 1926 of Black History Week by Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to Lee County's economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. And whereas the observance of Black History Month calls our community's attention to the continued need to champion equality and to build a society that lives up to its ideals. Now therefore be it resolved that the Lee County Board of Commissioners proclaim February 2020 as Black History Month in Lee County, North Carolina, and commend its observance upon all residents. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Dr. Compton?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to remind the board that the chamber banquet is this Thursday night. If you have not committed to going and would like to go, please contact Jennifer or Jamie. Unfortunately, Jamie's been out with sick children, so hopefully she'll be back tomorrow. The other item is we want to remind the board from Friday, it was decided that the board would send, each board member would send me goals for the budget. So if you want to call me or send me an email, Commissioner Smith sent his this morning at 6:03, so I appreciate that coming.
I'm working all the time.
And I noticed what time you send me emails, so it's great. But
Probably woke you up.
no, sir, I had it off, so it did not wake me. So get the, call me, discuss, it, or send me the email like Commissioner Smith did. So that's all I have.
Good, okay. Wow. I know, right? It's record time tonight. Commissioners' comments. Commissioner Reeves?
I'm still tossing around in my head the planning board matter we just finished discussing. It would seem to me that at the rate we're growing and the number of developments we're facing, that we should have a better understanding of when and how and what is required to get traffic studies done. Do you happen to know that offhand, or?
I'll try and answer that.
All right.
So, and maybe there may have been a little confusion in the answer Ms. McNeil gave, because
Yeah.
I think what you may be asking for is better understanding of how much traffic may be just kind of impacting that neighborhood or that community.
That's correct.
You can always request a traffic study with DOT, and they can go out there and do one for you. Now, I don't know what the queuing time for something like that is.
You mean the board or your planning board?
Staff, board, whoever,
Okay.
right? So if you all directed us and said, hey,
Right.
we'd like to get a traffic study at
Right.
a location, we can ask DOT to do that.
Mhm.
The problem is typically they're not going to be as responsive enough time for a development project a lot of
Mhm.
times. What she was referring to is anytime a developer wants to do a project, whether it's 29 lots, whether it's much larger, DOT is going to look at that on a preliminary basis and just get a sense, and they're going to kind of give some feedback to that developer, to local staff, and say, based on what we know, it's not likely to warrant a traffic study. Because what they're going to do is put that burden on the developer. The reason the developer has to pay that cost is the developer is going to have to pay for whatever improvements, whether it's turn lanes, whatever it might be. And that's what the purpose of that traffic study is. They're going to have to do what they call traffic impact analysis, which is done by an engineer that specializes in that, and they look at all kind of trip generation, the impact of that project, the mix between residential, commercial, et cetera. Anyway, they break all that down, they put out projections, and then they determine what the impact that's going to have on that level of service on that existing road. So to that point, if that level of service is already really bad, then that developer is not going to fix the road. What they're going to do is make sure that whatever impact that developer has, they're not going to make it any worse than what it is, as much as possible. So if it's a great level of service, and then that developer comes along and say they use terms like a level A, which is really great, right? Level C is kind of average, and F and so on. So let's say it's a level A now, and the developer is going to make a level B. Well, he or she's going to have to pay for certain improvements to the existing road to keep that a level of service A, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
So what specifically triggers that? Is it when the developer applies for a driveway permit that DOT says, aha, or?
And that's kind of a local thing. So what most developers don't want to do is they don't want to go out and pay for something like that until they got some level of comfort, right? That they know that they got their local zoning approval, they got certain entitlements in place, so that when they go and pay all that money to get that study done, they won't be wasting money.
Right.
So yes, normally what happens is, like Amy said, you all would approve the zoning, which you did
Okay.
tonight. So their next step is they're going to come back to us, and they're going to actually have their engineers, their civil engineers, design a much more detailed preliminary subdivision plat. So they're going to
Okay.
take that concept, the soils concept, all those things, and they're going to actually sit down and go much deeper dive into that and get construction drawings and things like that kind of prepared. Then that plat will come back to you all and your planning board as a technical review. It's not a public hearing.
Right.
It's not something where you're gonna have, the zoning's already determined, the lot size is already determined, all that. But you do have an opportunity to kind of look at that and make sure the design kind of fits. And you dive deeper a little bit into some of those questions. And depending on what you all want, you can say, hey, we're not comfortable with this. We want to see information about this traffic and see, we want to kind of get some more information about traffic. Now, like Amy said, I will tell you, 29 lots typically
It's
doesn't warrant
not
that. It's
gonna-
just a very small project, relatively speaking.
Right.
The board has asked for traffic counts in the past.
Mhm.
That this area was a high accident area down by the four-way stop.
Right.
And, other areas around town we've had. And typically our interest in the past has been, the high incident crashes. And that's when they'll, that also, if that is the background, they move a lot faster when it's safety related. When it's development related, it's a little bit slower
Yeah.
Yeah.
and getting a response from them.
The other thing I failed to mention too, GIS actually there are published numbers that are published by DOT, I want to say every year, if not every couple of years, for key segments, if you will, of roadways. Now, the challenge with that, of course, is it may be over at the intersection of St. Andrews and say, Main Street or whatever, whereas we are 2 miles away. So you
Right.
can't always get an accurate, right, because you got a lot of intersections between there and
Right.
there where the traffic diffuses.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
All right.
Anything else?
Oh, that one in particular, I think right down below that development is a development that's already in progress. Right there on Lee Avenue Extension.
Yeah, no, you're talking about, no, we talking about this one that's in the city, Commerce Drive, or which one are we talking about? Maybe I'm not thinking of
Down.
It comes,
Mm-hmm.
the end of the Leon.
That's what you.
yeah,
I'm just not thinking of it. I'm sorry, Commissioner Reeves. You may be right. I'm just not coming to me right away.
well, I heard the planning board mention it. That's what I remember.
Yeah,
So,
I said it probably is. It's not
All
coming
right.
to me. I know there's the big one that's down there off of Commerce,
Mm-hmm.
but that wouldn't necessarily connect with the avenue.
Right.
yeah. No, I just think that we're having a lot of growth. I
Absolutely.
believe you said something like 2,800 units in 2019. And I just believe it's time we start taking a serious look at the areas and looking at the roads that
Right.
around those areas. And
And I would add too, we are looking at updating the comprehensive transportation plan. I know Commissioner Smith is part of our steering committee, if you will, is kind of looking at that too.
Because what I'd like to hear is, and at the next Triangle J meeting, I'm going to try to have some conversations on the side, but like my counterparts, your counterparts, like around Holly Springs and Fuquay and Apex, what are some of the things they did that helped from a traffic standpoint,
Yeah.
and what are some of the things they wish they had done? Just to kind of learn from what they've gone through.
What you may find, and I apologize, and I don't want to keep your time, but as the community grows and as you want more of that information, you can request that. In other words, you could hold your decisions, for example, until you got that kind of information.
Mhm.
What you're going to get pushback on, of course, is always balancing that. You always hear, well, we don't want to be like Carrier, we don't want to be
Oh,
like
sure.
Holly Springs because it slows the development process down, right?
Mhm.
Because if they got to spend all that money on a TIA and they got to go through that process, it adds time and complexity that they don't have to do right now, to be quite candidly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yep.
thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Commissioner Gonsalves?
Yeah, well, we had our budget kickoff last week, and we discussed a lot of really important things and looking forward into 2020. And I think it was encouraging meeting with the ladies from our marketing group that will be working on our strategic plan. It's a really vital piece to our county, and it was encouraging because they talked a lot about just the community output that would be. They'd be doing a lot of just involvement with the community so that people who live here can have input on where they want to see the county go. So I look forward to that.
Yep. A lot of work, but it'll be
Yeah.
fun. Thank you. Commissioner Dodson?
Yeah, I just want to express my regret for not being at the retreat. I had a little recurring health issue that popped up. Nothing really life-threatening, but it was just something I kind of had to deal with for a couple of days. So, but everything's good. Thank you very much. Like I say, I'm sorry I couldn't be there.
We'll catch you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Del Plazo kind of stole my thunder. I was going to say, I thought we had a good retreat as we talked about schools and upcoming budget. And want to thank Ms. Parrish and Ms. Gamble for our meals, getting those stuff. Nobody. Oh, she did it all?
She can take the floor.
But I thought it was a good meeting, and Commissioner Smith, I hope those 3 goals, one of them was to lower our property tax rate that you sent to.
I don't know, he didn't say you giggled or not.
Anyway, that's all.
Commissioner Connect.
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
Madam Chair, just reiterate, Thursday was a pretty busy day because I was at the steering committees for both the Agriculture and the Environmental Committee. The Environmental Committee was different from the fact that we didn't really discuss much on environment. We got shared about resiliency and recovery from storms and major emergencies. And now we know we have a North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency. And it came out of the fact that with all these disasters back to back, the state got a little behind. So there's a new office that's been in office for about 1 year, and they're hopefully going to be able to streamline things and focus on getting the right people in contact with those in need. The Agriculture Committee that afternoon went into the hemp industry and the hemp business, and we had both some revealing and very interesting facts that we weren't aware of, as well as the legal and law enforcement aspects of it. And that was quite interesting. I do not know how anyone who can grow hemp, knowing that the state can come by any time and test your plants. And if your plants are over 3.5 THC, they destroy everything. And I'm sitting here going, if you've got some character in the neighborhood who's got some wild weed out there, and that pollen drifts over into your crop, that is a horrible risk. I hate to, that was the first thing I was thinking of when I saw that. Then we had our meeting with both Representative Sauls and Senator Burgeon on Thursday night, and I'm going to stand up and wave the flag for Commissioner Odom regarding the trash. I gave every one of you a copy of my proposals and the pictures I found. There was literally a pile of about 8 to 9 syringes at the end of my driveway from the trash that was dumped alongside the road.
Syringes.
Syringes, yes.
Good.
I did acquire from my professional medical family, and the oldest son said, call the sheriff, they'll come and pick him up. Because if you get caught driving down the road with him, you have drug paraphernalia, and it would not look good for you. So I took his advice.
That's
And
good advice.
the deputies showed up and met one of our newest deputies, newly hired deputies, and he's out there amongst the professionals learning the skills. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. We missed you during the retreat, but I appreciate everybody's attendance, and it was good. I think we packed a lot in a day and a half for sure, and I appreciate the manager, Ms. Campbell, Ms. Parrish, and other staff members that came and presented and added to the retreat. So I think we left with a lot of homework. But good stuff. 2 quick things, and just to put it on your radar, I got a report today from DEQ about some water testing at the Buffalo plant in Sanford, and I will not even try to pronounce the name of this chemical, but their PFAS levels. Did you read the report? Have you seen it?
I did not get it.
Okay, I got it from DEQ. We have the highest levels of any municipality in the Cape Fear River Basin. So just like I said, I'm just putting it on your radar, and I'm going to be calling and talking to folks. I had some calls in once I got the report, but I haven't heard back. I just need some clarification. A chemist I am not. So we'll be researching that a little bit more, and between the manager and myself and the city manager and the mayor, hopefully we can get some more information on what exactly that means for our water supply. It didn't sound like anything, you know, terribly alarming, but something that we need to look into and see if it's something going on upstream. And the last thing before we adjourn is Wednesday night, just a reminder, this Wednesday at 6:30 at the Ag Center is our census meeting. It's our first complete count committee meeting. So I encourage all of you that can to be there. Anybody in the audience or listening or watching, you're invited to attend. We will have our district census rep. I believe she's out of Durham. She's new. She's replacing the gentleman I have been working with. But she will be there, and Don Kovaskis will also be there to kind of just give us a brief synopsis of how things went in 2010 and what we need to shoot for in 2020. So it'll move fast and not a lot of talking, hopefully some doing. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I wanted to make sure we introduced Joseph Keel
Yes.
tonight.
Come up here so you can, everybody can see you with the camera. John, you want to tell a little bit more, or where he?
I'll let him introduce himself.
All right.
Joseph Keel, the newest Parks and Recreation Director. So go ahead, Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. It's been a really involved past 3 weeks. I can tell you we got good staff with Lee County Parks and Rec, and look forward to working with you, Madam and Board, on different projects and challenges and things that we want to accomplish here in Lee County. So, Dr. Cummins, thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to it.
Well, we are happy to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Happy to have you.
Make sure to stop by the office or call anything that you may need. Okay?
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
we'll keep you busy, we promise. Thank you, thank you. All right, there's nothing further. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.